Oh, all right, I will. Hello, I'm Bea McQueen. I'm here with Mr. Jacob Apelberg and also my partners from Goucher College, Ben Wallen and Sarah Lodge. We're here in Mr. Apelberg's Pikesville home, and we're going to be talking about his experiences during World War II. It is October the 14th, 2010. So, last time we were here, we were talking sort of about your experiences in Poland before the war, and now we're wondering, what was the first sign that you noticed that there was a war and that everything was sort of not okay as it should be?
Really, when I was living in the village, I did not know that a war is, what to say, coming. But I remember a little before the war, one time I saw an airplane flying. And it was flying not so high. If I think today, it was a small airplane, but it did not drop any bombs, nothing. But the real experience came with the war, and I did not know anything what it is. Now, I knew it's something, a flying object. Of course, it was not a bird, because it made this noise. And what happened the day the Germans occupied our village, I was outside in the morning. And this I remember quite nicely. It was, I saw the Polish army was still in the village. The army, I mean, there were maybe 8 or 9 soldiers, cavalry, that means on horses. They were still on horses, interesting. And they were speaking among them something I could not hear even. And then they disappeared. They disappeared, it was quiet. And even interesting, no, I could not see even other children outside. And then, a little later, maybe an hour later, I see a flood of soldiers, armored. It means they come with bicycles with 3 wheels, light armored vehicles, and other equipment. And the commander, he was speaking in German. And I remember, when I heard what he speaks, to me it seemed like it's Yiddish. And I ran to my mother and I say, the Yiddish army is gekommen. You know what it means? It means the Jewish army came. No? Because I hear German.
Yeah.
Anyway, my mother did not let me anymore go out. And the same day, so because the whole village was only really one street there, and all the houses almost were along the 2 sides of the street. And after that, soldier, a German soldier, just breaks through the door. He does not break the door, but with anger comes in and is with a pistol, like we have to stand. We were standing near the wall. We were only 4 people, because my brothers were not with me, so it was only I, my mother, and my grandparents. Okay. And you could see the hatred in his face. He was young, of course. But we had good luck. He did not activate the trigger. But at the end he said, "Verfluchte Jude aus." More or less what it means, ugly or cursed Jew, out from you. And we just leave, we leave the house. And where do we go? The German army is still going. They go in this direction, and we go in the opposite direction. And we go, we did not go too long. And my mother went and she asked a German officer, because even a Yiddish, I am sure she did not know German. But if you know Yiddish, you can understand a lot of German. and she asked him if he can go back home, and he said yes, you can go back. Because at that time, every German soldier or officer could do everything what he wants. There was no law. So we went back, and at that time we were already afraid. There was already fear, and we closed the door and we stayed inside. And in this way we spent all the night. Yeah, of course, my mother prepared some food and so on. Then I remember a day or maybe 2 days later, a German soldier comes again in, and it seems to me he was looking for maybe soldiers hiding in our house. So he had the rifle, and on the rifle he had like a sword, it means a bayonet. And he was with this, he was going into the mattress. He was thinking somebody hides there, but nothing, he did not hurt us. This was the second thing. The third thing I heard again, it was another soldier came in another day, and he was looking in the attic. Somebody hides. Then one time a soldier came and he asked from my mother to give her water. And he gave her water, and after he was drinking the water, he was cursing her because he was afraid she's going to poison her with the water. Now, the last experience was what we have, the 2 German soldiers, they're still from the German army. They came in, they closed the door, and it seems to me they were friendly to the Jews because they brought chocolate. We were sitting near the table, our table, we had a table and 2 benches on each side. It was a wooden table. And he said to my mother, you should escape from here because the Germans, they are dangerous for the Jews. We were sitting for a while, and then that's all, and they left. And my mother listened to this. She listened because I know maybe a week or a little more after that, we had a little store. So she went in the store, and I also helped her. And the floor of the store, these pieces of wood, you could lift them. And then you have a cellar done. And she started to move, not everything probably, but a lot of the merchandise to hide it down. And this is the way we did. And then one day, I remember she hired somebody a horse cab. That means probably one of our, you know what is a horse cab? That means it's a cab which the driver is the horse. This is, I looked it over in the dictionary. They call it a horse. In Yiddish they call it droshke. But what I will tell you in Yiddish, you're going to know.
Yeah.
But because I have also a Yiddish English dictionary, you see, so he tells me it's a horse cab. So it's essentially because this was the way of communication in our place where we live. This was a horse, and then you have a cab, that means, and you had above it a cover that maybe 4 people could sit, and in the front was sitting the driver with a horse, you see, so that's what they call it, a horse cab. And we took a few of our belongings because it was not a lot of place there, and we left the village. Now, for me, it was no place to sit, so I had to run. I was running. I was by foot, you see, because it's a small thing, you know. And we also could not reach the border on one day. So we were staying in the inn, I remember, and also the horse, you have to give him food, you know. And we also, of course, we had to eat something. We stayed there one night, and then we moved again until we reached the Russian border. Because essentially we went, at that time it was the Soviet Union. Because as you remember, in '39 also the Soviet Union attacked Poland. It was the Ribbentrop-Molotov agreement. I believe it was in August 23, 1939. So a part of Poland was conquered by the Russians. And it was not so far away from our village, because I had a chance to look it over on the map now. And once we reached there, we came to the border, and this also I remember quite well. Because I was little, and we stopped at the border, and the Russian soldier takes me, lifts me, and he says, "Пожалуйста." Means, "Please come in." I was thinking I'm in a paradise, you know, because we were all the time, they hate us from all the sides. And here he says, "Please come in." So now we are on the other side, and where do we stay? So we had to reach a place which is called Białystok. Białystok is already a big city. It was before, it was Poland, now it belongs to Poland really. And Białystok also was conquered by Russia in '39. Now we did not have much money, but still my mother rented a room at the beginning. We had a room, one room, 4 people. And we stayed there, and of course it was a little kitchen there, whatever. But what do I do remember that my grandmother died there. She died, and what was her death was that one morning I wake up, I get up in the morning, and she was lying in the middle of the room in the bed. And I go and I wake her up. And I could not wake her up. And then I begin to uncover and I touch her. And I say in Yiddish, "Bube," she spoke, "Bube," that means that's grandmother. And nothing happened. And then my mother came and she touched her, and then I heard she was crying. She died in sleep. She died in sleep. And I remember at that time, really, I was not agitated, interesting. Something, it seems to me like something natural happened, like it's supposed to be this way. Because she died so quietly, and she was already old. So from there, after maybe 2 months, we could not stay anymore in this place because we did not have enough money. So we had to leave, and where do we go? Now we are essentially, at that time, we are homeless. So we go to a synagogue in Białystok. And I remember in this synagogue, at least 500 people were sleeping on the floor every night. The wall, it was a big synagogue, huge, full. You could not move there at all. And also when I was in this city, this is the first time I had the chance to see a big city. And I was like completely intoxicated. These big houses. Our little houses were all little huts, you know, with straw roofs, all the same. And here, and then I see children, all that dressed. And then you see people in uniforms, you know, policemen. It's crazy. I was too sensual. And I walk, and one time I crossed the street, and the car almost hits me. I remember I touched my shirt. and I was thinking it's a devil. I was thinking it's a devil, and I was a little afraid. Anyway, what happened in Białystok in the end, that one night, the Russian soldiers come and they wake us up in the middle of the night. And later I came to know why they woke us up. Because we were in Białystok, but we did not want to accept Russian citizenship. Because probably they were afraid of the communists, because of the communism at that time. So the people who did not want to accept Russian citizenship, the Russians decided they don't want refugees on the border. Because this city was not far away from the border with Germany. German occupied a part of Poland. And then where did they take us? I don't know, they take us to the train. And the people cry, I remember, because you go, you don't know where you go, everything is unknown, everybody is so sad. Although looking back, in fact, they saved our life, but who knew? So we go on the train, and the train was a cargo train. Yeah, cargo train, it was one big door, you know, a sliding door. You could open or close, but at the beginning it was closed. In a day or two later, they were already supplying us food and water. But of course, it was no restroom on the train, nothing. So only when it was a station, you know, when you stop, you could go out and make all your needs. So we did not know where we traveled, really. We had no idea. And this traveling took maybe at least 1 week, because we were stopping also. And I remember at the end, we come to a place, and it was in the evening, and we come there and we go out, and around you, so much mosquitoes and insects, you hardly could see a person who stands close to you. And I remember the people who were already there, they had special masks with screens to cover themselves. But this was not the whole thing. The other thing comes, it became already evening. And I wait, it will get dark. And it never gets dark. Because we were so much to the north, where you have in the summer, you have the day and night is light. It means it's not, you don't see the sun, but it's light like on a cloudy day, let's say. So you can read a book. And it was strange to me. My mother probably also did not know anything about this, and all the other people, because we came from nowhere. So at that time, I remember, it was difficult to go to sleep, because this change, you know, it bothered me a little. And we were staying, in fact, we were in a city close to Arkhangelsk. Arkhangelsk is, it's called in Russian Arkhangelsky Oblast. Oblast, it means the region of Arkhangelsk. And it was called Posyolok Novostroyka. Posyolok is a settlement. Novo is like in English, no, Latin. Nova is new. Stroika is structure. Novostroyka, it means it's a new thing, a new settlement. And there we stayed, of course, there was no school there. Essentially, we were there like semi-prisoners, but it was, nobody was guarding you, because around there were forests, that the forests probably were spreading hundreds of miles in every direction. And so I did not work, my mother, she did not work, but the people who were able to work, their main job was to cut wood. There was a lot of wood, in the woods, they were throwing in the river. There was a river there, yeah. I remember. I was too little to swim, but it was a river, and just the wood was moving with the river without any ship, you know. Maybe somewhere where it reached. And unfortunately, my mother died there. And what happened there, I remember one time from the Communist Party, they came and they made a little meeting. They said we have to gather together, and they had a speech. And what I remember from the speech, of course, they were saying people have to stay here and so on. But they say it also in Russians, kto nie prywyknie, tot zdохнет. That means the one who will not adjust will perish, because it was no doctor there. If you get ill, or you recover, or that is it. And my mother, unfortunately, she became ill. I don't know what she had, but the abdomen began to swell. Yeah, the abdomen swelled. And of course, I was going to the store with, to buy her things, but all this, I could not save her. We don't know what it was. Maybe she had an infection or what, who knows. Anyway, what is in my memory imprinted is the last day of her life. I was standing all the day near her bed, and she was lying and looking at me and breathing, and you could see already some fear in her eyes. And sometimes it came to me now later, the image of a candle, like when it comes to an end, you will still have fire, it will flicker a little, and then like it's out and it comes back. The same thing happened with her. She was like, I could see she was breathing, and suddenly she stops, and then she gets back and she looks at me, and this made me afraid. And this continued almost the whole day. And at the end, I saw she does not move anymore. And once she does not move anymore, at that time, I was crying all the day. Because this was like I lost the whole world. The whole world, like nothing is left for me. And really, and even at that night, I hardly could sleep. So it was no choice, and after a few days, there was no cemetery there. There was no cemetery, because this was a new thing. And maybe she was the first person who died there. There were a few people, and they put her in, and we were digging just a hole, not far away from where we lived, and we put it in there. Now, this was in 1940. 1940, that means at that point I'm only 8 years. So one woman who was a neighbor, she decided to adopt. She herself was quite young. She was born in 1916. Now imagine, this is 40. She was only 24 years, not. And she lost her husband. She was from Lodz. And she had a small little daughter. The daughter was younger than me. And she also married already another man, because in the war, everybody was dying, losing people. I don't know what was the reason she adopted me, but at that time I was afraid that they would put me in a, what do you call it, in an orphan home. And then I will have to stay always in Russia. I will not be able to go out from there. So I stayed with her. I don't know what was her reason. Maybe it was a few things was left from my mother. I don't know exactly. whatever, or maybe she saw I'm a little boy, what can I do myself, you know. So now, when it came the year 1941, started a war between Germany. In fact, June 22nd, 1941, the Germans attacked Poland, not Poland, Russia. And at that time, the Russian government, they allowed the Jews to move from these places to other part in the Soviet Union. And they gave us two options, I remember. Or to go to Kazakhstan. You know where's Kazakhstan? It's a republic now. Or Uzbekistan. For some reason we decided Kazakhstan. We were thinking it's warm there. So it came a time and we went on the train. And again it's a cargo train, the same thing. But this time it was already travel in the USSR. And it was difficult because it was no restaurant. And I remember one day I had to hold off almost all the day just to urinate. And I was thinking I explode, you know. And also when I came to Russia, it's the first time in some of the bigger stations where we were traveling to Kazakhstan, I saw the first time a modern restaurant. Imagine. With electricity, with all these things. This was unbelievable. Anyway, it took us quite a while, and also I liked the doors were open, because when we were traveling, it was warm already. It was in the summer,
Oh,
41, the summer of 41. We were traveling and the doors was open, you could see all these things. And interesting, in every station where you stop, they gave you free what the Russians they call kipyatok. Kipyatok is a word, in one word, for boiled water. That's what it means. They have a word for this, a special word. Kipit, it means it boils. But kipyatok is boiled water, that's all. And that's where we got hot water. And I came in such a habit to drink hot water that I feel, even now I still drink it. Because in every station we had it, until we came to a city with the name Akmolinsk. Akmolinsk, we became to visit the city, and there they gave us a little apartment. Not an apartment, really, it was one room. That's all what it was. It was one room in the basement, and in this also the Soviet government supplied us also a loudspeaker. You could hear Radio Moskva, only Radio Moskva, and also it was electricity. I remember one time I had to go to change a bulb, and I did not know, and I put in my finger inside, and I got a shock.
Oh, no.
And you have to remember in Russia, it's not under 10 volt, 220 volt, so it's a lot higher. But it just threw me out down, not in cabin. So we stayed there, but there we already had school. School, yeah, we already studied school, and I was there a lot, and of course, then I had a little problems with my adopted mother, because when I came there, I had to do all the work at home. Tell me, this room, what was this room? In the middle was an oven. The oven is for heat and for cooking. So, they will bring us a lot of coal. So we were not eating with wood, with coal. So I had to go and move the whole coal from where they put it close to the home. Then I had to, and also she was teaching me to cook, because she wanted to go to spend with her husband. You see, they were young people.
Yeah.
They were a little older than you.
Yeah.
You
I
see?
know, that's so
They were
crazy.
not- she was young, and she was She was an athlete in Poland. I remember when I had to walk with her, I had to run. She was a strong woman, energetic. But one time I remember, and this made me mad, I was studying to the school, and I start at home, and she takes the book and she tears it away from me and say, first you have to make order and clean up everything, only after that you can go study. She was tough to me. And I had also to cook, you know, to prepare and take care of a child, because it was younger, the daughter.
Much younger.
She was 4 years younger than me.
Oh.
Yeah, she was young. She was Hannah. Hannah was her name.
So,
Unfortunately, I lost her. I cannot find her. None of them. And I remember one time in school, see, in Russia, in the Soviet Union, because all the schools are government run, so we had big celebrations. Really, we had recitations of poems and so on. Then I also had something to say, a poem to recite there. And she also came to see all this. But I did not even tell her that I will also be there. You know? Then, after that, she told me, why you did not tell me? I could buy you new pens. You had pens full of patches. You see? Anyway, but later we lived better. And I also I like to listen to the radio. And I remember, because they advertised it a lot in the Soviet radio about the war. And when it was the uprising of Ghetto Warsaw, this was the Jewish uprising in Ghetto Warsaw. They gave a lot of encouragement about it, because this was the main uprising against the Germans by civilians. And I remember even after that day when we went to school, even the teacher spoke about this. And then she started to speak about Hebrew. And the Jews, they their own language. And I almost forgot already, you know, because here I live in the Soviet Union. This is against religion. See, the Soviet Union is severely against religion. And she was also saying after the war, Jews will have their own state, and so on and so on. I remember one year I was the best in the class. Yeah, and interesting. And when they had this celebration to give the present, I even was not inside. I was playing outside. Then somebody had to rush and call me, because my mind was completely out. And I remember a year later, the teacher told me, you be careful, somebody else compete against you. And I was thinking to myself, I don't compete. I did not say anything. I go my way. I'm not, I reference to myself. Anyway, we stayed in Russia all this time. Oh, in Russia also, you see the interesting, the city where I live, now they changed their name. When I lived, this was a city no more than 10,000 people. And now it's called Astana, and it is the capital of Kazakhstan. And there are 700,000 people live there.
wow.
And I went to the internet and look, where is the Ishim? The Ishim was the river. Because when I was there, I was going to this river and swimming. I learned myself to swim until I could cross the river. And I see, and at that time I had to go way outside the city. And now it is in the middle of the city. The whole river. It's a big change.
Wow.
You know. So it was, and then it came, of course, the victory, and this was a big celebration in the Soviet Union. The victory on Germany, I mean, in 45. And after that, because we were still Polish citizens, we could go back to Poland. So, and I'm with her, and at that time I was already 46, I was already 14 years. Then I already decided once I come to Poland, I would separate from her. Because she wanted to go to Lodz. Lodz is the city where she was living, you see.
Oh yeah, what was her name? Your
Oh,
adoptive mother?
Yeah, Polashinskaya Rachel. The family name Rachel. Rachel is enough. I cannot find her. She's not young anymore, but I'm not young. She's even older.
Right.
Oh, she's already 94 years now. Yeah, 94, yeah.
Wow.
If she lives, who knows?
94.
Yeah. Anyway, when I came to Lodz, the first thing what I experienced is we cross the border and we go into Poland. And again with a cargo train, and the door was open, and the Poles start to throw stones on us. And they say, Żydzi do Palestini. See, Żydzi, it means in Polish, Jew. Jew, go to Palestine. That's not a place for you. And now the Jews are in Palestine, they told them out of Palestine. You know, they have still troubles in Israel. And so we came to Lodz, and now when I'm in Lodz, I already decided, and she also was thinking it's right, that I should join a youth organization. And at that time in Poland, you could go to places, different squares, and yeah, you want to say something? Different squares of the city, you could see the Jews they gather, and they decided whatever was left. Now you have to remember in Poland before the war were 3.5 million Jews. What is left was only 500,000, so 3 million got killed. And there was, for example, the party from the Bund, which is the Jewish Socialist Party. They would say, this is our homeland, it's enough for us wandering, we will stay here. But because I was watching this radio in the Soviet Union about the uprising in Ghetto Warsaw, it stuck to my memory. And then I saw there was one organization from Palestine, the Israel did not exist, that the commander of the uprising in Ghetto Warsaw belonged to this organization. And this was a Shomer HaTzair. In Hebrew, a Shomer HaTzair, it means the young guard. The young guard. Shomer is a guard, and Tzair is young. At Tzira, you are young. As I decided to join them, and yeah, it was no problem, they accepted everybody. So immediately there, they took us to a hotel and where we stayed. And we already, at the beginning, we were still studying in Yiddish, but we started to study Hebrew. But again, Poland was communist, and we could not leave Poland. So they decided maybe after a month or so on to take us close to the border. They took us to the border, and there, one night, they decided we will cross illegally the border. There was somebody who guided us, of course. There were people who knew. And at that time, they told us that we have to destroy any identification we have. And any picture we have to destroy everything. And when they were looking of everybody if you do it. And I remember we crossed the border at night. This was a place, it was a mountain, and it was a forest. It was dangerous, really. And when we crossed the border, we find ourselves in Czechoslovakia. In Czechoslovakia, I remember we were in Bratislava a few days in Prague, but this was not our main destination. Then we were traveling from there to Germany. Germany to the American zone. And in the American zone, we arrived there still at the end of 46. And there, again, they took us to a special place. In fact, we occupied a wall hotel. And more youngsters joined, and we had groups of different levels according to age. And there we started to study all the subjects in Hebrew. Not just to study Hebrew, but everything. It was like an high school, but it was a little at a lower level. And there we stayed until we could make Aliyah to Israel. Aliyah, it means you travel to Israel. And this was in beginning of 49. So that's the whole story.
Wow.
No, почему? Just pause.
Yeah. This, he was not with us anymore in the synagogue, but my mother found a place to him for older people. And he stayed there. But after my grandmother died, 2 weeks later, he died also.
Oh,
2 weeks later, I remember.
so
Yeah, I did not see him anymore, but that's what it is. Then I was left with my mother myself, and then my mother, it happened in this place, you know, and she
Yeah.
died. And after the war, I was looking for my brothers, could not get any answer. In fact, I even tried here with the Red Cross. They have a bank of names in Germany, 60 million names.
wow.
And it means not the people who are alive, the people who got killed cannot find. Because it was not, the Germans did not register the people who they killed, you know.
Yeah.
If he was studying, you see, my brothers, they studied in the yeshiva in Vilna. Yeshiva is a religious, higher, it's like a religious university or something like that. And I also had brothers who were already married here. You know. So when I was in Israel, I remember I looked maybe for 15 years.
Wow.
Nothing. So at the end you settle, that is it. You have no choice, you settle that.
And did you ever go back to your village? And
Oh yeah.
What was that?
I went back to 2002.
Oh, okay.
You see, 2002, because I wanted to verify also my memory. Because I remember, I forgot to tell you, I already said about this, that my father died in 35.
Yeah.
I remember. So I asked the older people there, do you remember something with a bus from here? Oh yeah, a bus, and the bus fell on the river. And I asked him what year it was. He told me it's 36. I was thinking it's 35. It's not a big difference. I'm not sure if he's right. Who knows? But this was. But on the other hand, the village now, 5,000 people lived there.
Wow.
Yeah. It was during the Soviet Union, and of course everything is modern. Modern, it's a different word. No one house was left from the old houses. And I asked them, what happened with all the old houses? What happened? It was a fire, they told me.
Oh.
And everything was burned. Everything was burned. And I also asked them, I remember where the well was. I said, was here the well? And they told me yes, a well. See, when we were in the village, there was one well. But even now, there was no more well, because everything is central water comes, you know, through the pipes. But I could still have an orientation where the well was, you see. And also I remember that the place was little hills. And when I came, I saw it. It is a little small hills, you know, in green a lot. And also interesting, where it was our home, where it was a hardware store, they have now a big hardware store. No, it's true, but it's much bigger, of course. And but interesting, these people, what happens under capitalism? They hardly will speak with you unless you give them some money. If you give them money, give me $50. No problem. You see, people, everything is money. What do you think? They learned fast it's capitalism. You see, and Russia was not. You see, also a challenge.
Right.
No, it's not a little thing, because the equipment is quite sophisticated. It's built in so many functions
Yeah.
that because you have your, let us say, window after window, how much depth you have.
Yeah.
You know.
I know. It's true.
No, I remember when we came back, you see, when you go with the dates, they cover, this I have to look it over really. The war started in September 1st, 1939. But the village where I was, I cannot know when they conquered it, but I know when they conquered Ostrov-Mazovietsk, which is only 10 miles away, so I can assume this is almost the same date. This was already 18th of September, because when we were walking, when we were crossing, before we crossed the border to the Soviet Union, I remember one day when we were walking, and still it was imprinted in my mind. It was a little drizzle, like a little wet, and the soil was grassy, because most of the time we were going through the fields. He was not even going through the road. It was because it's not a car with a horse, you can just go. So, and I was seeing organs of human beings spread in the field. Here you can see a head, or there even a human being, or legs, or this type of thing. That means they did not have yet time to clean up everything from the war. You know, yeah? But when you look so much time back, you know, you look at this more in an objective way. But also something with me, it seems to me, when I was young, I was too much embedded in, how to say it, in the passion of life, that this protected me a little from all the bad things. But really, it scared me a little when I was seeing all these things, you know. And also when we were walking, I remember my mother from time to time, she was looking if I still can keep up with them, you see. So that was the main thing in Poland, really. The other experiences, yeah, when we already heard that one of our neighbors, the Germans, they tear out his beard, and he was bleeding. They were at that time were not yet the concentration camps, but the hatred toward the Jews was in them, because this was a part of the German propaganda, you see. But what I remember, once before we left, I did not go out anymore outside to play with anybody. I was all the time inside, staying in the room. We are locked until the whole development. You see, we had good luck that this German told us to leave.
Do you think that before he told you to leave?
Oh, we will not leave.
Yeah, your mother
Yeah.
or your grandparents?
No, because I did not know what happened with the people of Monsova, but I was reading from Yad Vashem, is the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, and there they arrived, this village like all the others, they were killed, all the people.
Yeah, I actually read that same thing on Yad Vashem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they were killed. And also when I was in the village, now I went there, so from not far from there is Treblinka. It's maybe not more than 10 miles from the village. And then they killed not only Jews, they killed from many nationalities. And they have the big memorials, you know. So it was a very dangerous place. Every place was dangerous.
Yeah. So, I guess did you hear of any stories from people that you knew in the village, or is all that you know about sort of the fate of the people who
I
were
tell you one thing. I met one woman here who she was not from the village, but she visited the village. And only from her I knew, because she's much older than me. She told me, Bonsova, everybody was looking down on them. They were the poorest of all. But her parents, or her family, they have a mill for flour, to make flour, you see. It was a very backward place, she told me. It was. And I met another time, I was here in a store in Baltimore, and I tried to buy something. And one guy, also a Jewish guy, is religious, it seems to me, comes to me from, where are you? I am from Poland. I told him, from where? I tell him, close to Ostrov Mazowiecki. And he said, no, tell me, where close from Ostrov Mazowiecki? And I say to him, Vonsova. He says, Vonsova? I'm also from Vonsova. But when I went to him, he could not remember anything.
Oh no.
He could not remember anything, you know. So, what I'm going to do with him? I tell you, nothing.
Was he younger than you, older than you?
He was 1 year, yeah, 1 year younger. 1 year old.
1 year.
I still have his address, I believe. Maybe I should see what is going on. And he has also a brother, but I did not know his brother. His brother knows nothing, he told me. So it's depending. But I did a little, you see, there's no organization from the Jews of Vonsova, but there's an organization from Ostrov Mazowiecki. In Ostrov Mazowiecki was essentially the center of all the, first of all, it was like the capital of this little region. And also in Ostrov Mazowiecki, were living like 60% of the population there were Jewish, you see, and they were a lot more advanced because they already had connection with the Jewish organizations in Warsaw. They already had a women's Jewish organization, yeah. There was something. So they have books on this, but I don't have it, I should really. And sometimes they have people meet. So maybe I should go to these meetings one time. If there's still somebody left, you see, maybe I can find somebody. But otherwise it's difficult to find because probably the people who were left there, I don't think anybody survived. Because in the air, I remember it was like in the air you could feel the danger, you know. It's like the atmosphere itself creates it, you know, after all this experience, specifically this hatred of the German who jumps in and we are like at gunpoint, we stand and it, yeah, I believe it lasted maybe close to 1 minute. We stayed near the wall like this, and the wall was white. And we even don't yell, don't cry, we stay like, I believe, I did not understand the full significance of it, that this could be the end, you see.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, everybody, you know, even when you are young, everybody comes to maturity and understanding at a different age. And I was quite childish in my opinion. I don't know.
You're very young.
So I mean, you were very young. You were a boy. So how did you understand what was going on, and did it like force you to grow up faster? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I have to tell the truth, you know, because we don't try to, you know, to beautify myself. I don't think it caused me to grow up. I don't think so. That means I saw the danger, but like I was going on with my life. Like you go on. I still was, when I was in Bialystok, I remember when I crossed, I was so entangled with these new views, with these new things, that even I crossed the street and I almost forget myself, because I did not understand, you know. And then later, when I was with her, with this woman, which she took me when I was 8 years, again I was a little oppressed. And believe me, sometimes she will really beat me up. And I had to resist. I was, and she was telling me, if you will not behave, I will call the police. She will call with the police, and I did not know what it means, the police. I remember it was times that I was going and I was sleeping outside. I had such bad relations with her in the beginning. I remember one night, what happened, she left somewhere with her husband, and I was with the child, and I fell asleep. And once I fell asleep, I had a very strong sleep, and when she knocked on the door, I did not hear. And then I wonder what way she managed to go in. Then she started to beat me up. You know, why did I go to sleep? Tell me. You know, you fall asleep, who knows? So life was not easy, but I adjusted, and I have good memories from Russia, because even we were poor, but people don't worry. You see, in the USA, from my experience, a lot of people, they worry, because once you study, you get a job. Maybe it's a layoff, who knows? You see, in Russia, they say, kto nie работает, тот не ест. So, if you don't work, you don't have a right even for food, to get food. So, for example, we had one room. And in this room, it was not a big room. 4 people have to sleep. And I had to do everything. I had to refurbish the floor. And not do you refurbish the floor, you think? You know what you do? You go, the cows pass through the neighborhood. And when they pass, they produce manure, and you collect this, and you mix it with a little sand, you mix it. And then you spread it, you clean up the wall, and you spread it on the wall, and then you have a new wall. And this took me 1 day to do it. I had to do it. This was my work, yeah? What do you think? This was, yeah.
Did you make the house smell pretty?
No, but the smell
pungent?
goes away. It goes away
It goes
fast.
away.
It's interesting. It goes away fast, because why do they take this manure? They put it in the fields. Yeah, they put it. They put it in the fields to grow better.
Yeah, right.
So it's not like. This was something. But from Poland with the Germans, really, I was not such a long time there. I was not alone. I assume we were there up to probably the middle of October.
What year?
The same year, 39.
Okay.
Yeah, 39. If you will be longer, it will be big trouble. And once they passed the army, I'm not sure how many of the soldiers were left there, you know, because this was a road, they were just walking and going with their vehicles and all that. The place where we live was not so far from Warsaw. And so from Russia, and I learned to swim there. Yeah, this I liked, I was going every time. And sometimes will happen in the winter. Oh, we were going, oh, I forgot about this. We were thinking we go to a warm place. Oh, I looked over on the internet here. I remember how cold it was. In the winter, sometimes I looked over on the internet. Minus 40 Fahrenheit.
Oh my goodness, that's freezing.
Minus, I remember, I could not, if it was a little wind, I could not go in the front. I had to go with the back. I could not breathe.
Ouch.
And then even I was dressed with gloves, special gloves, heavy. Sometimes I was coming home. I had to go put my hand in the cold water. The hand it was almost frozen. Because there to school you walk. It was not like here. It was not like here you don't have school. You just walk. And to walking it was at least 1 mile. You just walk. Snow, not snow, you walk. No, you don't get spoiled.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's cold.
But we had, so what I wanted to say that there, even we did, we had it very good, you know why? See, the one she married, he was a shoemaker. So what happens, he was working in a shop from the government to produce shoes. And then, after he finished his job, he still slid off from the shop. Could go in jail because of this. He still slid there, and then at home, he had the tools to make shoes. So he stays at home late at night and he makes shoes. And then what do I see? Who comes to buy these illegally made shoes? Officers from the Red Army. The Red Army. And one time I remember he sends me with a pair of shoes to give it to somebody, to a Russian who was a big manager. And I walk with the shoes and I come to that house. It looked like a palace. You know, he had probably 7 or 8 rooms. So it was also their differentiation. Not everybody was the same. So my experience with the Holocaust, generally, although I suffered because I lost all my family, but the tragic thing is that what it saved us is my mother was smart enough to leave the village. And I know there were still Jews who went to Białystok, and then they smuggled themselves back to Poland, to the German side, because they were afraid of the communists. But the communists, they did not kill Jews. Stalin may have killed some people, but he killed those who he thought are going to compete with him.
Yeah,
In other words, take his position.
right.
The Germans had a systematic way to kill people. They built an industry to kill people, because I was also after that in Auschwitz, you know, and the crematoriums, where they were burning people, 24 hours a day
Right.
on the clock. So I was not, but I still experienced the fear, you know, and all these things. And once we came back, we were not welcomed, of course, in Poland, and we had to go there again. What can you do?
So after the war, I guess, had officially come to a close, when was the first time that you heard about what went on in all of the concentration and extermination camps?
Oh, that's immediately. We already knew in Russia, you see, the fact that the Jews have to uprising, but I did not know anything about mass killing, no. I did not know anything about this. Only when I came back to Poland, and in this organization, they started also to tell us about this. And also I remember when I was in Poland, this was in a city, I forgot the name of the city, but this was near Krakow. Krakow is the southern part of Poland. It was a pogrom against the Jews. They killed 80 Jews, they killed. And the main reason they killed them, because some of the Jews who came back, who did not perish, they wanted to go to their houses. And these houses were already occupied by the Poles. So they did not care to kill them, you see. But it was not officially, the killing was not from the government, you see.
Yeah.
No, this was a pogrom.
Yeah, that's just-
So it came to me clear what really happened. I knew there was a big war, because in the Russian TV, in the Russian radio, you know, they had a special announcer that every city, if they were losing or winning, they were giving it, you know, in such a special. When winning, it was in a very elevated language. Saying this, yeah. And you can listen to it still now, even on the internet sometimes, Leviathan. So only when I came back, I understood the whole catastrophe. And I also understood that my own family, that means my brothers and others. Now I know we had also relatives in America, but I could not find them. How do I know? Because we were getting packages from the USA when we were living in Warsaw before the war. But it was not such great things. Mainly old clothes.
Old clothes.
Probably what they did not need anymore. So it was, yeah, only after that, you know. And Hebrew came to me very easy, because I think I still remember what I learned probably when I was little in the Cheder. In the Cheder you learn without much understanding, but you still learn the words by rote. It means just
Yeah.
to memorize and so on. But here, because this was a secular movement, see, in fact, they were secular and very to the left. You know what it means to the left?
Yeah, very liberal.
Yeah, but liberal is not the left. But the left there means they were close to communist.
Ah,
That-
okay,
that's not-
alright.
Left here they speak, the Democrats and
Yeah.
the Democrats and the Republicans are the same thing. A little small difference. No, no. It's just, so they were very, why not to the left? When I came back, and I just touched what happened after that. When I was in kibbutz after that, and I wrote something, and I wrote about Russia, and I said not everything was right there in the Soviet Union, because look, we were living so many people in one place, we had nothing, and here you have one manager and he lives like in a palace. They censored me, they did not let to publish it. No, you cannot say bad things on the Soviet Union. Not only. You see?
Funny.
Yeah. So it's people are different, you know. But I tell you the truth, I have no hatred to the Russians. First of all, they saved not only me, I know they saved 250,000 Jews, escaped to the Soviet Union. So some say, some were. So essentially I was also maybe, when I was in the north, I was also like semi-prisoner. And also, you see, when I was in the north, there was a forest. And I was going to the forest. And the forest, you could, Oh, wild blueberry you could collect, and eat them. Wild blueberry, wild raspberry.
Oh, that sounds nice.
And sometimes I will go in, and hardly I can find my way back. It's dangerous. You can be lost. And one time I was with another boy. He was a Russian boy. There was not only Jews in this place. And then a wolf tries to attack us. And I know, he knew that if you turn on fire, the animal will be afraid and will run away. I did not know this. I did not know. And he did it. Otherwise, who knows what left.
Oh, wow.
So it was, and one time I remember, and I can disremember, I walk in the morning near the river, a cold day, it was cool, but the air was so fresh there, because really, it's all forest, there was no cars there, nothing, And I see this little, what do you call it, a young horse, yeah.
A colt?
Colt.
A colt.
And he goes near the river and he falls in the river.
Oh.
And I look and I think, I was afraid he will not be able to come out because he was so young.
Yeah.
But then I see suddenly he's up with his head first, comes out from the water and he breathes. It was like a surprise, It sunk in my memory, and then he comes out, runs away. So it's so I had, but this was the most sad story was with my mother. That I was never crying so much because I was thinking, this is the end of my well. I have nothing for more to live. She's away. And my mother, even at that time, I believe, she was probably 40 years old. And her face was pale, and she was always full of worries. When we were, because you have to remember that my father died when I was and then she had to take care of everything. She had to do the work, to support us, clean the house, to bring maybe also the supplies. I don't know, she did it and all this. It was not an easy thing. So you have to be what they call in Hebrew, Eshet Chaya. You know what it means? A woman of valor. A woman of valor. So, yeah.
How long was she sick? Do you remember?
It was not long. It was not long. She was sick, and I was. There was a little in the whole place where we stayed in Posorek Nostroika. See, I did not work. Other people were working. I was too young. She, of course, she could not work. So we had a little. There were small houses there, but again, it was no electricity there, and we were living probably in the same house with the other woman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we were living in common. So we still had a little money probably, and I was going to this place to buy little things, there was no major things there, and giving all this to her, but I could not save her. I think, see, we came there, she died, it was close to the winter. She probably was sick maybe for 2 months.
Yeah, that's very short illness.
Yeah, because if you have a serious infection, I don't know what she had, but at the end, the abdomen was growing, and at the end, it was difficult to breathe, because, and I was also afraid, because, you see, everybody, I believe every human being maybe dies in a different way. Because from my experience, I know in Russia we had a dog. I just go away from the subject because it will be related. In Russia we had a dog and a cat, and they were fighting one with the other. It seems to me she liked it. Why? I don't know. We did not. There you don't buy food for the dog. It's only what is left. A little bone. You give him food for the dog. It's crazy. But one time the dog, he was running after a car. And the car, he fell under his wheels. But he was not completely dead. And then I saw his eyes were wild. You could see the fear in the dog. You see. Then I remind myself when my mother, before she died, when she opened the eyes, like I could not recognize it. Now I knew it's my mother, but the expression was threatening. And this thing made me more sad, you see, because you know, I did not. I already thought before about that, because when my father died, I said to myself, I will not die. In what way? In what way?
You'll not die.
Because when that will come, I will run away.
Oh yes, yes.
I will run away. I will run away. You see, as a child, I did not think maybe I cannot run. You see, I will run away. And this thought, and this was the time, you know, when it came the thought, when I was riding on the droshke is the horse car, not on the, and the back, because you have this cover like this, you cannot see what is going on in the back. And there's something there where you have the springs, such a rat that you just can jump on it and sit down and have a free ride, and he does not know about it. Because I liked, I don't know why this, it gave me pleasure when I ride, you know.
Yeah.
And this time came to me this dog, but when my mother died, I was not thinking anymore about that. I was just, all my thought were that what I lose now is I lost my whole world. And after I saw that she's dead, I just cried for hours. For hours I cried, and I was never, you see, I go now, I even here sometimes I get emotional. I still get, not a long time I had to speak somebody in his funeral. And after, in the middle of the speech, I start to cry.
Yeah, memory is a powerful thing.
Ah,
Yeah.
it's not good to be too emotional.
No, it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
So that's
It's
what it
powerful.
is. Yeah. So this was my the biggest loss. And after that I was struggling. Now in Russia when I remember the first time I kissed a girl. And what happens, it was one girl, I cannot remember her name, but she had freckles on her face, this I remember. And we were walking together to school. At that time I assume I was still young. I was maybe 11 years old. 11 years, that's not very old. And as we walk, I suddenly hug her and kiss her without saying anything. And she was not mad with me, I don't know. No, it was like an impulse. An impulse. You see, you don't. It can happen here. It can happen to older people.
The impulse. That's funny.
You don't experience such a thing.
I guess. That's funny. So after that,
Believe me, not a long time.
Yeah.
Here in Baltimore, I go to the fitness center. And I'm like ongoing a little. So I speak with people, I speak, and I see a woman comes. And she was, her face was not so good. I still speak with her. And she's much younger than I'm old. And I see, and I speak, like you make more an intimate connection
Right.
when you speak. It's depending what way you speak, of course. It's depending what way. So, and like my message goes deep into her. And I see, she comes close to me, but she wants to hug me. But then, maybe kiss me, I'm not sure. And then I see, she goes back. Because the wisdom came, the rationale came into play. See, the rationale came into play, but the instinct told her, "I'm going to go." So the way I was, then I imagine the way I was when I was little, my rationale did not work. You see, I was too little, and I did not see Bonos. We were still walking together anyway.
Were you friends with this girl after that, or did you just?
No, I did not see her. I did not see her even. I don't know. I will not even, you know,
That's so-
first of all, in my age, these desires are already, they go in an exponentially down. You know exponential function? Ye minus something. Ye, you studied a little mathematics, no?
Yeah, I've got no calculus.
So, but still, sometimes, I had a little passion to women when I was young, I tell you. But this was not, and we were friendly in school, I remember from school, because when I was, you see, in the Jewish community, usually where I was grown, you separate. In school, in the Cheder, it's only boys. Girls, I don't think even they had a Cheder. At that time, not the F, now girls will study. But at that time when I was, girls, they will not study. They will study probably maybe at an older age, but not the boy, that's the man, you know, because it was still a patriarch society, you know.
Yeah.
But I have also a lot of memories from the village, of course, but it gets mixed up a little here and there. But sometimes when you see, I have to make an effort, and what happens, it was a time I became ill here. And then I learned to meditate. You know meditation?
Yeah.
My meditation was very simple. Meditation is you just concentrate on your breathing. You concentrate on your breathing, and that is it. And then I remembered my one Passover which I remember in the village where my father was still alive. And then I say, I will meditate on this. That means I meditate and I switch in, like it comes a point. You start at first a little by little intentionally, and then I felt like I switched in and I am away from the environment I'm completely aware. And then I could see more the picture. Now it's a little more difficult for me to do it. And I did it only a couple of years ago, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a skill,
Yeah.
because even if you are old, you still can a little evolve your brain, because they say now that new neurons are still maybe growing, I'm not sure. And also I go to Tai Chi. You know what is Tai Chi?
Yeah.
Tai Chi is mainly good for old people because it teaches you balance. keeps you, because many times you have to stay on one leg on this thing.
Yeah.
But this is already out of the subject. Yeah.
That's good. Well, do you have any other particularly strong memories? Anything you'd like to say before we close up? Or...
With respect to what? Maybe you
I
give
don't
me a
know,
hint.
I don't know, just your experience living in Kazakhstan before the end of the war, or I don't know, and anything. If you feel like we've
Yeah.
gotten a lot, then this has been very interesting.
Yeah, let me see one moment. Tell me, you will get able to give me a copy of this also?
Oh yes,
We
yes,
will.
Oh, okay, thank you.
of course.
Because maybe I will compare what I say, maybe I forgot it. From the village, what I remember, it was also a little river there. I liked nature, this was my main thing. And many times, not many times, but here and there I was going with my mother, traveling with, because with my father, I don't have so much memories, because it's so little. And I was reading somewhere that usually a person can start to remember maybe from the age of 3 years. Sometimes I was thinking, I remember when I had circumcision. That's impossible, because they do it at the age of 8 days.
Yeah,
It cannot
it's
be.
very young.
But on the other hand, you have pain. Who knows? So from the village, nothing. From Kazakhstan, there's big celebrations, and we were essentially what they call Komsomol. So we were already in the communist youth organization. But they did not, I don't remember that they gave us any propaganda. We were really studying all the subjects, you know, the regular school, and we had meetings, and at the end of the year we had huge celebrations. But the main thing, what I remember from Russia, that even we were not poor, because of he had extra money from the side. This is why we could eat meat. But I remember I had to go also to the store and buy food. And as I was carrying the food, somebody I will get attacked, and they will try to rob it. Yeah, and
Wow.
sometimes they will steal something from the food. No, what can you do? Because it was maybe hunger there a little, you know. But the main thing, nobody can throw you out from the room where you live. Cannot. So, you see, you can say everything is bad in communism, but there's something which is... And also, if a person is not able to work, they will still give him a pension. You don't get much. So, and also I experienced, one time, like, I became a speculator. I remember there was one market in the place. This was like a flea market. That means you could come and sell things. And there was two policemen observing this. And I remember I go there. I don't know why I went there, because another time I went with the train a trip. So I go to the market and I had maybe a little money. And I say, a woman was selling, how do you call it? You put it on the woman's head. Not a hacking chair, but when you cover your head. But it's flat,
A
you know.
beret?
No, not a beret, not a beret. You can use it for anything. It can be a shawl,
A handkerchief?
a hacking chair for the head. You can put it on the head.
A babushka?
A babushka, right. So, and this was with different colors. So I buy it. And then after I buy it, I say, what am I going to do with it? So I say, I'm going to sell it now. And I remember I sell it with a profit. And that's all, and I did not go anymore this.
That's
You see, I did not go. And also it was fun. There many times you would go soccer games, you could go and see, and there was no crime. There was no crime there. So from this point of view, and what was the other things there? Forget. So this was this, yes. Oh yeah, they gave us also, you see, we were during the war there. So the Soviet Union, because it was difficult with food, so they gave us a piece of land outside the city. Means you don't own the land, but you can do with it whatever you want. And there we could grow vegetables and potatoes, and I remember we went together there and we packed on the ground, and they gave us the seeds, and we were growing, so we had fresh, yeah, we had fresh,
Wow.
yeah. So they tried to help, you know. It was not, but it was tough for many people. I did not have a bad experience, because we had food enough because of him. And at night I was sitting with him. His name was Chaim. He was little. Oh, also in this house, you see, it seems to me that he was also trying to go after other women. Why I know this? Because one day they started to fight one with the other. Not just fighting, actually hitting one the other. And I lie and I just look. And then I remember we had neighbors who were Poles, not Jews. And she told her, don't worry about this. Even if he left, this is not like soap, she told her, that you use it and it goes away. You understand? Yeah. For some reason. So already at a young age I learned about the relations, you see, because, but she was very energetic, and I felt when I lived with her that she was too hard on me. But on the other hand, when I think now, she was not my relative. And she said, if she gives me all the food, then I have to do work. You see, so there's some justification of this. But at that time, I did not think this way. So I was also a little, sometimes I was trying to fight back, but she was much stronger than me. She was strong, she was a real athletic woman, yeah. And unfortunately, after we departed in Poland, she gave me the address. And after we already departed, and I heard out of Poland, and I remember, and suddenly I had such a longing to her, like I was thinking a physical thing is torn out from me. Like I felt like pain inside. Like pain inside, I tell you, it never happened to me, to anybody like this, because after all, I lived with her many years. But then, when I was writing to her, I lost any connection. Never a letter came back. Never a letter came back. And now even I go in on the internet and I put in her name, nothing will come out. I cannot find her. I'm not sure if she's alive, but maybe her daughter, if I'm alive, her daughter probably came. Yeah, Hannah was her name. And we were playing together. Yeah, we were with the company. So this type of feeling, I tell you, it was like a physical thing. It was taking, I don't know why, and she did not relate so good to me. You know?
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
I don't know why, but sometimes, because if it's an emotion, you don't you don't do it intentionally. It comes by itself, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing, I believe. I think I covered more or less, because really I was not in a concentration camp, you know, but later I learned in the history, because the synagogue where I was, this synagogue, after the Germans occupied the city of Białystok, they pushed in 1,200 Jews in the synagogue, and they burned the synagogue with the Jews.
Wow.
This is something historical. Yes. It's a beautiful scene. I was never, you know, I did not go back to Białystok even, because, you know, when you go to Poland now, what you see is a big graveyard. But what is interesting, when I went back, it was in Warsaw, it was Żydowski festival. It was a Jewish festival. It means they sing music, and I see one singer is dressed like a Hasid. You know what a Hasid is? A Hasid is a religious Jew, pious, yeah. That's a special movement in the Jewish religion that means that you can connect with God yourself. You don't need a rabbi even. You can connect yourself to God. And he sings with such a feeling in Yiddish. You know, I was sure he's a Jew. And then after I finish, I go to him and I speak with him. I say, no, I'm a Pole. He does not speak even Yiddish. But I knew Polish, I could speak. Ja nie jestem Żydem. No, he came from Gdańsk, he came from far away.
Yeah.
Because, and now they like in Poland, you see many places, for example, I was in a restaurant. What do they call it? Polska kuchnia z żydowskim smakiem. That means Polska is Polish. Kuchnia is a kitchen. A Polish kitchen z żydowskim smakiem. Schmack, smell. You see. So it's a Polish kitchen or Polish restaurant with a Jewish taste. With a Jewish taste. Because you have to remember, Polish, it's the same, it comes from the same origin like Indo-European language. The Slavic languages also come from the same family, although they departed more. When you take, for example, snow in English, Russian, sneg.
That's close.
Not everything, it changes. So it's a whole history. So that is it, I
Wow.
believe.
Okay.
Maybe you want to drink some wine. 4% only.